we're here. We've made it to my top 10 favorite movies of 2025. In case you missed it, I've been ranking the movies, all 54 movies that I saw in 2025 with two other videos before this, so please go check those out because that was a lot of work to get those made and recorded and edited, and yeah. So please go check those out if you haven't yet. Unless you have watched those and you're watching this to continue, you're watching my ranking, in which case, thank you so much because this did take a lot of time and work. So thank you. But it's also just very fun. I really enjoy talking about every movie I saw. I'm not sure if I keep seeing more and more movies each year. I'm not sure how often I'll be able to do this. I might have to at least like shove it all into one unedited video at some point, or just stick to the only top 10. But I don't know. I just enjoy talking about all of them. But yeah, here's my top 10 though of the year. A top 10 that I think is going to have a lot of you upset with me, because there's a lot of movies in this top 10 that people are going to be like, really? That's in the top 10? Or that should be higher, that should be lower, but this is my top 10, and again, this is going off of favorites, not off of the best, because there's probably certain movies that should be in the top 10 best movies of the year, but I don't really care, because these are my top 10 favorite movies of the year. And also, in case you're wondering, I still, even having seen 54 movies, missed a couple movies that I kind of was interested in, or maybe that I should have seen. So that's a possibility. Now, before we dive into the top 10, I know that there's a lot of you who probably clicked on this video just because you saw top 10, and you only cared about top 10, and you ignored the other two videos, and even though I'm telling you to go watch them, you're probably going to ignore them anyway. So there's a couple movies on here that were so close to making the top 10 that I really wanted to shout out quick, just to give them a shout out in the top 10 video, even though they didn't make the top 10, as honorable mentions, just because I love them, and I wanted to shout them out. One being Predator Badlands, which was at 14, which I think is a great film, and then after Badlands, all of these were actually in the number 10 spot at one point in time throughout the ranking, and I kept changing that 10 spot with all of these movies. That being The Gorge, which as of right now is 13. Again, great movie. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning at number 12, which I think the second half is a great movie. And then number 11, which was also almost number 10, Wake Up Dead Man. So I just wanted to shout those ones out, and if you haven't seen those, go watch those, because they're all great. Even though they didn't quite make the top 10, they almost did. So yeah, go check those out. Okay, enough with the honorable mentions, especially if you already saw my previous video. You already heard me talk about those in more depth. So here, let's get started with my top 10 favorite movies of 2025, with number 10, Roofman. Dude, I really liked this one. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and I just thought it was it's very interesting because it's based on a true story, which is kind of crazy because it's such a crazy and kind of unbelievable story, because for those who may not know, it's based on a true story of the Roofman, who robbed a bunch of McDonald's from coming in through the roof and then hid in a Toys R Us. And then while laying low, he starts falling for this girl, and he starts almost making like almost like a second life with this girl, becoming very nice to her kids, and he seems like a pretty great guy, and it's just a blast to watch this movie. There's so many moments that just make you laugh out loud, but there's also moments that tug at the heartstrings too, that make you feel things. And it's something to that. If they didn't say that this was based on a true story, I would have thought that this was fiction, because it is just so crazy. And I mean, it's so crazy that I would not have guessed that it was a true story if I did not know beforehand. And they even do, like most true story movies do, in the credits show you some of the real pictures and tell you some of the real life events that happened. And the fact that it's pretty close to the real life events, it's just crazy to me. Our main character here is also super likable. I think it does help that, it's Channing Tatum, and I think Channing Tatum is also very likable. But also just the way his character is, you can't, even though, because this is based on a true story, this is technically a bad guy who did some bad things and does have to serve his time. But you also can't help but root for him because he is so nice and likable, that you kind of do like, yeah, I kind of hope that he gets away from the police and lives out a happy life with this family. But that's also very much a fiction thing, and this is still based on a true story. So he kind of has to, face the music for what he's done. But he's just so nice and likable that you kind of want to root for him too. So I just think it was great. This one almost didn't make the top 10 because I was debating, but I just really like this movie a lot, and I think it's such a fun watch. And like I said, as much fun as it is and funny, it still pulls at the heartstrings every once in a while, which I thought was great. All right, now let's move on to what I have at number 9. One that will make people mad at me because of how low it is. But hey, I liked it, just I prefer to watch the other movies. That being at number 9, Sinners. This seems to be almost everybody's number 1 movie of the year. It seems like it's between this and One Bell After Another for everybody's favorite movie of the year. And I, as you can tell by this ranking, prefer Sinners over One Battle. And which is kind of weird because I'm not much of a horror person. Horror is not my I don't, it's not my favorite genre. Let's just say that. I don't like hate horror, but like I'm gonna prefer other movies over horror most times, just because it's not my thing. I do enjoy some of the tamer horror films every once in a while, but even then, they got to be on the tamer side. But everybody kept saying how amazing Sinners was. Everybody kept saying that it's one of the greatest movies of the year, even without it being horror. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna suck it up. I'm gonna watch it, and maybe I'll like it. And I watched it, and I was like, wow, this was great. And I think it helps too that it really doesn't even get to be horror and like violent until the third act. The first 2 acts, it's just this really intriguing story about these band of brothers who want to start up this club and have music play, and it really is a story kind of about music, really, and how powerful music can be. So the first 2 acts, that's really what the movie is just these 2 brothers trying to get their club up and running, which is really good. And then we go into the third act, and that's when we get the vampires, horror, and a whole lot of blood and gore. But it was also like very entertaining. Like it was I didn't find it necessarily as scary as I found it thrilling. I feel where I was at the edge of my seat, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to these characters? Who's gonna survive? Who's gonna die? And it did get very gory, but even then, I was still just like intrigued. And then everything else about the film is just pretty great too. I feel like it's pretty well paced, which I was a bit nervous about, especially with the vampires not coming into the third act. But still, it's very well paced. I think the acting in this film is just great. When you're talking about Michael B. Jordan, who's playing 2 different roles because he's playing twin brothers and he plays both brothers, which I thought he does such a great job that I do believe that these are 2 different people because of how great his acting is. The cinematography in this movie is just amazing too. It's one of my favorite parts about this movie is that every shot in this movie is just beautiful. You could frame almost every shot in this movie, and it just looks incredible. So one of my favorite parts about this, I haven't seen every movie when it comes to the Oscar season and stuff, but I feel like this should win Best Cinematography or something. I know it's going to be a Best Picture contender, probably against One Battle, which might take it. I don't know yet. I mean, we don't even know the nominees yet, but still, at the time of me recording this, but So yeah, I actually really debated where I wanted to put this movie at because like at one point it was at number 11, at another time it was 10, at another time it was 8. So I keep debating on where to put this because it is a great movie. And the music, I didn't even talk about the music, even though that's like a huge part of this movie. It's also like great, and I think it also does a great job at taking you back in time to when it is set, to 1932, I believe is when it takes place, and like the sets look great. It's just, I think that this is an awesome movie that if you're okay with a bit of gore in the third act, you should definitely check it out because it is awesome. And like I said, I'm very shocked because I was like, I'm not sure if this movie is going to be for me. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's still not only number 9 when a lot of people say it's the best or second best of the year. So to me, obviously, I'm going to prefer other movies. There's just other movies that I prefer to watch over a movie like this, but that doesn't take anything away from how epic this movie is. So yeah, all right. great movie. Let's move on to what I have at number 8. Another hot take, because people are going to say it should not be in the top 10. I don't care. Number 8, Wicked for Good. Now, I know people are going to be upset about this because a lot of people are like, well, Wicked for Good, part 2 is not good. A lot of people love part 1, not part 2. I'm someone who going into, what was it, last year, 2024, with Wicked Part 1, I didn't know much about Wicked. I mean, I knew it was a stage play that existed. I knew that it was like the origin story of the Wicked Witch, but I didn't know much else. After that, the trailer started coming out for Part 1. I was like, that looks very interesting. Everybody's saying it's great. I'm going to go see it. I saw it. I was blown away by that movie. To the point that it cracked my top 10 last year. If you go watch my video, I believe it's at number 6. If you check my Letterboxd, it has since moved up to number 4, I believe. So and I was shocked because I was like, all right, I'm not sure if this is gonna be my thing, especially because musicals have to be like awesome for me to love them, if that makes sense. Like, I do like musicals, but to me, I think musicals have a high risk of me not liking them, because if the songs don't hit, then it can hurt the experience. And to me, every single song in part 1 hit, and then part 2 here came out, so I was excited to see how the story continued, especially after part 1 having a pretty good ending, I thought. And yes, part 2 is not as good as part 1. There are some pacing issues where the first half of the movie kind of drags a bit, and then the second half of the movie just pushes past super fast, way quicker than it should. The songs are weaker than the first one, with the songs aren't as memorable or even as emotional as some of them. But still, the majority of the songs are great, and I still greatly enjoyed this ending to the story. That does also get a bit darker, but it kind of has to, because of the story that's being told. You kind of hard to tell this story and not go darker. And there's just some epic moments. No Good Deed is one of the best musical numbers I think I've seen in a movie. It's just insane. The song itself, Cynthia Erivo's being able to sing it awesomely, the visuals and the spectacle around it. Like, that No Good Deed, that musical number gave me goosebumps. I'm not kidding. That scene is incredible, and even the rest of the movie I think is really enjoyable. I think it helps that I've already am invested into these characters because of the first film, and I think it delivers a very satisfying ending to this 2-part journey. So when I watched it the first time, because I ended up seeing this one 3 times. When I watched it the first time, I think it cracked like the top 5, but then upon rewatch, the issues were a bit more obvious, so it dropped a couple spots. And then the third time I watched it, I think it dropped 1 more spot, because I was like, yeah, this movie is not as strong as the first. It's not as strong as the other movies that came out this year, but that doesn't change the fact that I had such a great time with it, and I kind of want to watch part 1 and part 2 back to back eventually at home, which I might end up doing. So, yeah, I think this is a great one, despite what most people say. Let's move on now to number 7. I have How to Train Your Dragon. So this is another one that I feel almost like it's cheating, because if you don't know, I love the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, animated trilogy. It's one of my favorite trilogies ever. How to Train Your Dragon 1 from 2010, I believe, is one of my favorite movies ever. So, if the first How to Train Your Dragon movie came out this year, it honestly would probably be number 2 in this ranking here. And this movie is really just almost copy-paste that movie, but in live action. So obviously I'm gonna like it. But I'm also just like, I don't know if it's cheating to put it so high. Because it being almost like a copy-paste of the original, all of the greatness of the original is here, just not as good due to it being the second time of it being happening. Like, the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless is great. The father-son dynamic between Hiccup and his father is great. The dynamic between Hiccup and Astrid is great. The score is amazing, but it's also the same score from the first movie. Although one thing that this one does have, visuals, is also amazing. I mean, the original film also had amazing visuals, but animated visuals and live action visuals are very different. And while the animated film looks amazing, this film also looks amazing, but in a different way due to it being live action. Although I will say, I think the cast does an amazing job in this movie, especially because they're not trying to be like the original cast. They are bringing their own their own flair to these characters. I think Mason Thomas, I hope that's his name, I think is a great Hiccup, especially for this new version. I think Nico Parker is a great Astrid. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of drama with her being Astrid because, well, you know why. But I don't care. I thought she did a great job as the character. Obviously, Toothless is the best because he always is. But yeah, it is that issue where it's like, obviously this movie's great, but that's because it's the same movie that is from 2010, except live action. I personally had the feeling going into it that, and I kind of hope they do this with the follow-up, with the sequel, is I wanted them to make it different, but have certain scenes be shot for shot. Like, for example, the first flight scene, Astrid and Hiccup's first flight together, and maybe like the final battle. Those scenes should stay shot for shot, and they did. But to me, everything aside from that could have been different. Like, I would have liked them to change things up a bit, maybe have some different story beats, just because then it's not the same exact movie. And obviously, when it comes to live action remakes, not everybody's going to be happy. There's going to be people like me who want a little bit of both. And then you got the people who want it to be completely different, nothing from the original, and then you got the people who want nothing, the exact same movie but in live action format. I don't know, you might agree with one of those, or maybe you just don't think it should exist in the first place, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's most people. So no matter what, this live action remake is never going to satisfy everybody, but it was good enough that I liked it. I saw it, I did end up seeing it 3 times in the theater. Admittedly, I don't know if I'll watch it at home. That's another reason why I didn't want it to be shot for shot all the way through, because now that it's not in theaters, because obviously when a movie's in theaters, it's the best way to watch a movie because of the big screen, the loud sound, the community. It's the best way to watch a movie. So obviously I'm going to see that in the theater a couple times with this score and the visuals. But now that it's not in the theaters and I can watch it at home, I'm going to watch the original instead of this one. So that's where I also have the big problem here. Admittedly, this movie also will be extra special to me personally because I did get to see it with a friend who I don't get to see very often. They were in town and were like, let's go see this. And I was like, yes. So we saw it. So this is going to have a little bit of a special place for me personally. So obviously top 10. All right, I feel like I've been talking about that one a bit too long. Let's move on now to number 6, Ballerina. Ana de Armas kills bad guys in the same world as John Wick. How is this a movie? I don't think it's possible for me not to like the movie I just described to you. And I saw it. It was awesome. First of all, Ana de Armas is great in this movie. She does such a great job. I think they do a good job with her character too, where I buy that she's this awesome person who can easily kick butt. But whenever it comes to her versus John Wick, they do such a good job at showing that, don't forget, John Wick is still the Baba Yaga. He's still the guy in this world. So obviously she's no match for John Wick. But she could still kick butt and kill a whole bunch of bad guys. And it's awesome. There's some awesome action sequences in this. Some of my favorites, like the flamethrower action fight towards the end, is just so great. Dude, if you watched it in Dolby too, where that flamethrower, you could feel the vibrations in the chair due to the sound, was great. And also, it was real. That was not CGI fire when they shot this movie. They used real flamethrowers when they shot that action scene, which to me just mind blown. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. And then just other action scenes too. We have the action scene where they're throwing plates at each other. It's awesome. Obviously, when John Wick gets involved, it's great. Because obviously, you love Keanu Reeves, love John Wick. I think this is such a great film. It's definitely one of my favorite action films. Like I said, I don't think it was possible for me not to like this movie. They'd have to seriously fumble this movie for me not to like it. Now, obviously, I prefer like the first John Wick and even John Wick 4 to this one. I even think I prefer John Wick 2. To me, it's a toss-up between this and 3. But that's also not a bad thing, because John Wick's, especially in my personal opinion, 1 and 4 are like some of the best action movies ever. So, so it's no downfall on them. And I really hope they do make a sequel following Ana de Armas' character here. Just because I did find that I really liked her character, and I just want to see more action with her in this world. So, Yeah, I love Ballerina. This one I think cracked the top 10 when I first watched it too. And I mean, it's just, I'm gonna love a movie like this. Like I mentioned before, it's just a movie made for me. So, yeah, all right. Now we get into my top 5 movies of 2025, with the movie kicking off the top 5 being F1. This movie is great. Now, yes, you probably have seen this movie before with this guy does this sport. He's aging. He's getting older. He's not viewed as like the best anymore because we have this young upcoming guy, and we have like this where it's like a battle of generations, and then the mentor helps out this newer guy. It's a sports movie that you probably seen in other movies before. Does that matter? No, because it's such a great version of it with characters that you can't help but like. I mean, everybody in this movie is great. Brad Pitt is great. Damason Idris, I hope I said his name right, is great. Javar Bardem is great. Kerry Condon, hopefully I said her name right too, is great. I probably butchered those names. I should just not say their names anymore. I'm just bad at it. But like the entire cast is just great in this movie. And just the race scenes are like amazingly shot and amazingly edited, that you feel like you're there, and amazingly directed too, where you feel like you're there in the cockpit of the car in this immersive race where you're at the edge of your seat. You're feeling the thrill of the race as they're going about it, which is just awesome. So Joseph Krasinski, I think is the director's name, hopefully. Again, bad with names. So, but the director of Top Gun Maverick, who did the same thing with planes in that movie, where it was just so well done that you felt like you were in that plane with them, and you felt the thrills of being in the plane. You get that here with the cars, where you're in the car, you feel like you're in the car, and you get the thrills of the car. I just think that is done so well, and it's just a great sports movie with great characters, and I would definitely see a sequel to this movie if they do it. Do you call it F2? I mean, I know the whole thing it's based on Formula 1. And also, if you think about it, in a way, this is kind of like the opposite, like, say, World of Worlds, where, in a way, yes, it kind of is a very long commercial for F1, but it doesn't matter because they are telling a great story with great characters and great acting and thrilling scenes. So, awesome. My one negative is I do think the movie is too long. It's 2 hours, 35 minutes. I don't think it need to be that long. There are moments in the middle where I think it drags a bit too much. Where I'm like, can we get this thing going again? But there isn't too much of it, so I think this is a great one. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm very sad. I was unable to catch it in IMAX just because of time and how far away an IMAX is from me. So kind of sad about that. But still, a great movie. All right. At number 4, I have The Accountant 2. I think this one is actually number 3 at one point in time, but somehow it moved down a spot. But yeah, Accountant 2 is great. This movie is so much fun. Again, similar to like Ballerina, we have some awesome action here, an enjoyable story. They do such a great job at making you also care about these characters. I think the best part about this movie that makes me love it so much is Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal's chemistry with each other, and how awesome they are together, and how hilarious they are together. I think this movie actually is better than the first Accountant movie, and again, I think a big reason for that is Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal together, because they weren't really together too much in the first movie until like the end, and this one they are, and it's great. They have such a fun dynamic. And like this movie had me laughing so many times, but it also just put me at the edge of my seat when the action came out. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. So, like, that's really what put the movie up for me. I mean, you got Batman and the Punisher teaming up. That's gonna be a fun time. So, yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about this movie. And this is another one that I think a lot of people are gonna be like, really? This is in your top 5 of the year? Yeah, because it's a great time. Like, this is such a fun watch. Like, if you just want to if you just want to like have a good time, you want to put on a movie and just have a blast, this is one that you do it with, because like I said, these two characters together are great. The action is great. So, and I got invested into the story too that was being told. So, number 4. All right, now we come in to the top 3 of the year. And we're at the point that you can guess what 2 of them are. But first, let's talk about what kicks off the top 3, that being Novacane. I think this is the one that actually swapped places with the Accountant 2. I loved Novacane because it is such a blast. Novacane, if you don't know, is about this guy who can't feel pain, has this medical condition, he can't feel pain. So even though he lives his life being very cautious because of not being able to feel pain, that can be very dangerous for him. And so he's got to be very cautious. But when bad guys kidnap his girlfriend, he decides to use his ability to not feel pain as an advantage as he goes out to try to fight her, or fight these bad guys. And it's just so much fun, and it's also so incredibly violent, but it's also like funny too, because like there are these violent things happen to him. Like he sticks his hand in like some very hot frying grease, he gets stabbed in the hand, he gets a whole bunch of other like just violent things happen to him, and he just like doesn't react because he doesn't feel it, which is awesome. We have a whole lot of comedy here, not only with like that kind of like dark comedy that I mentioned, where he's like these horrendously violent things happen to him and he doesn't react because he doesn't feel pain. Or there's a scene where this guy's trying to torture him by making him feel like horribly painful things. He rips his fingernails out. It's just so gross to look at, but he doesn't feel anything. So he's trying to stall for time. So he's just like faking it, like, oh no, that hurts so bad. It's hilarious. But there's also funny moments just with the characters also. With like like their dynamics with the other characters. Jack Quaid is just so awesome and very likable in this movie. His girlfriend, who's played by Amber Midthunder, I hope that's her name right, is also great, and she's very likable. And also Jacob Balot, I'm not gonna even try to pronounce his last name. Jacob, who plays Ned in the Spider-Man movies, is also great in this movie. And like I can't just help but get behind this character, get behind this adventure, and it's just such a blast. You're laughing, you get to see great action. It is so violent though. Definitely uses its R rating to its advantage. But it's kind of like a good thing, because this movie kind of should be R rated. When you have that kind of a premise, you could just do all kinds of crazy stuff, and they do. So yeah, I loved Novacane. Not sure how many times I can watch it, because sometimes things just get wow. But still a great movie. And if you're okay with like extreme violence, you need to watch it, because you're going to have a blast as long as you can handle violence. So yeah. Okay. Now, before we get into our top 2, if you know me, if you follow my channel for a period of time, if you know me as a person, comic book movies are my favorite genre. I love comic book movies. I love Marvel. I love DC so much, just for a number of reasons. Where you're talking about movies, shows, games, comics, it's my favorite genre. I love these things. So to me, after seeing these movies, they were easily going to be my 1 and 2, because they went to these spots as soon as I saw them for the first time, and they have not moved since. So you know what they are, and if you saw my comic book movies ranking, you already know the order too, so kind of spoiled for you, but I don't care. Number 2, Superman. I love Superman. This movie is great. First of all, we finally have what might be my favorite version of Superman on screen. And that's coming for someone who I do like. I love Christopher Reeves' Superman in the very first Superman movie. Love it. I actually, despite what others feel, I love Henry Cavill in Man of Steel. Love that movie. Love that portrayal of Superman. But my personal favorite version of Superman has never been properly portrayed on screen, except for maybe Superman and Lois' Superman. Love that version of Superman. And to me, this does it. This brings my favorite version of Superman, and the cast is just brilliant. And I just so invested into this world and into this story. I just love how they portray Superman in this movie, because he's this ultra powerful guy, but he just loves everyone, and he cares about everyone. He wants to save everyone. I love that, when he's giantly this giant kaiju in the city, he does everything he can to make sure everybody stays safe and stays alive, including a squirrel. When the kaiju's about to step on a squirrel, I think it was a squirrel, and Superman uses his super speed to get the squirrel out of the way before it's crushed, and then he even is trying to find a way to stop the kaiju safely, and then when the Justice Gang just kill it, and he's just like so upset about it. I love that. I just love this portrayal of Superman. I love how colorful this world is. It gives me so much hope for the DCU moving forward. Crypto is awesome and hilarious in this movie, and he doesn't feel out of place like you might worry that he might. I just think this is a great one. But to me, there is a movie I preferred. As much as I love Superman, I still prefer this. That being at number 1, my personal favorite movie of 2025, my best movie of 2025, Thunderbolts. Asterisk. Or, you know what? This movie came out in May. Spoilers time. The New Avengers. I love this movie. It's my favorite movie of the year, and it was since I watched it. Like I said, this is everything that I love put together. I love comic book movies. That's what this is. I love the MCU. This is set in the MCU. I love movies about people who hate each other becoming a family. That's what this movie is. I love stories about redemption. Bad guys turn good. That's what this movie is. It's like this movie was made for me. And I love every single character. I love these characters before they were even introduced in this movie. I love them in their previous projects. And now I just love them even more here. Yelena is, I think she's such a great character, and I love how they really dive into how she was in the Red Room. She had to do a bunch of terrible things. She lost her sister, who was like proof that she could still do good. A Red Guardian is great, where he has a bunch of his silly, hilarious moments that really do make you laugh, but he also is able to have these sweet, emotional, heartfelt moments with Yelena. Bucky, he's been awesome and throughout the MCU for years, and he continues to be epic in this movie. John Walker also is great. I liked him in Falcon Winter Soldier, and he continues to be great. And he is kind of like the jerk of the group, but you also can't help but kind of like him, and you follow along with his character arc and that. And Ghost, I really enjoy too in this movie. In this movie, I liked her name in The Wasp. I think she has a great story, and the entire cast here is great. Bob is an awesome addition. The Sentry is just this great thing where he's like Superman, but he can't use his powers because if he does, the Void comes out. I also love that they do cover topics like there's moments in this movie where the characters do come to terms with they're okay with dying, or they come. Like that's how much in depression they are. So it does deal with depression and some suicide, and it's just in mental health, and it's really well done with that. And like this does a great job. The ending of this movie, slight spoilers I guess, is somehow able to end where if you really think about it, this movie is really like the friends we made along the way thing, except it's not corny or cheesy. Like we have this hug at the end where it's like, that's how we win. We hug. We're best friends. And somehow it's emotional and not cheesy. I don't even know how that was possible, but this movie does it. I love Thunderbolts. It's my favorite movie of the year easily. It's one of my favorite MCU movies probably. Not quite up there. I love other MCU movies a bit more than this one, but it is definitely up there, and it just feels like a great end credit scene that I can't help but feel like the MCU is back. Granted, I felt that way with other movies, and then you know, things happen. But to me, this really almost felt like old school MCU, while also feeling brand new, because it does feel like this is the MCU. We're back, but it doesn't feel like the old style, and I do like that it is. It's kind of like an Avengers movie, but it's a very different, because of it being the Thunderbolts. So, yeah. I love this movie. A lot of people are probably going to be upset, like, how is Thunderbolts your number one? Well, we have Sinners. We have one battle after another. F1. And sentimental value. Superman. I know. I don't care. I love this movie. And if you are someone who has not watched it, you should watch it. Even if you're someone who, like, hasn't been keeping up with the MCU because of post-Infinity Saga, it's been kind of all over the place, this is one you need to check out. And yeah, there you have it. That's my top 10 favorite movies of 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it, even though I've been talking for a long time, so I need to stop talking now. especially because I've been talking about all these movies. These are like 3 videos, probably all 3 hour, almost like an hour long each. But yeah, let me know down in the comment section below your top 10 favorite movies of 2025. I would love to see what they are. And if there's any movie that you think I might have missed that I should watch, let me know. Thanks for watching. I see you guys next time. Bye.